Right. Use tonight? That's perfect. Welcome to East Texas Wi-Fi live streaming. It is a challenge to say the least. But hey, we're back this week. Top 5 baits once again. Wait till we get a few people gathered up. It's a big week. We got the Big Bass Splash going on. But if you're wanting to go fishing on other lakes, be sure to hit me up with your questions. I'll be happy to answer anything that I can about what techniques we should be using, seasonal patterns that are going on in our area up here in Northeast Texas. Or you can ask me a question about anywhere, anything you want to ask. It doesn't matter. This is open forum Q&A. Your Lake Fork guide, Billy Lawson. So, I don't know if this is having a hard time reporting because I'm having a weak signal, but I'm not seeing many show up yet. I don't know what's going on. I'll just go ahead and start talking about some baits, and you guys fill your questions in as you come in. For some reason, it's not updating and showing me comments or anything right now. Maybe it'll catch up here in a second. Big tournament this week, like I said. Lake Fork is in really good shape. We've had some early cooler weather. It's going to be hot this weekend, but the water temps have really cooled off a lot further than what they normally would be this time of year. So it's got a lot of fish on the move. I said in the video the other day that, the video that came out last night, that there wasn't a whole lot of deep schools, and there's not a lot, but I will say this. Yesterday I found 2 schools of fish that looked very interesting. We fished for them for a brief time. My customers were pre-fishing, so we didn't really want to sit there and pound on stuff. We're really trying to find as many fish as possible for them. So I did find 2 schools of offshore fish yesterday that looked really, really interesting. So I'll be interested to see when I get back on the water next week how that pans out, because I am definitely not going out on Lake Fork this weekend with all of you folks fishing that tournament, but I do wish every one of you the best of luck. They're going to be out there. But, so top 5 baits. First and foremost, the one that's getting more bites, the one that's doing better for me than anything else, is a Wacky rigged stick bait. 5-inch stick bait, Wacky rig. We've caught them in a lot of varieties of a green color. Watermelon red, some yum dinger color called Cajun neon. Justin Crawford had that Okeechobee flash color from V&M. On my Smash Tack baits, I've thrown watermelon candy, watermelon red and gold. I mean, it's just anything green with some flash in it seems to be fine. But that 5-inch stick bait is definitely getting the most number of bites of anything day in, day out right now. And then the second bait that's working the second best is a 1/4 ounce gold chrome rattle trap. Catching a lot of fish on that, just keeping it right above that grass. Catching some really good unders on that. And then another bait that's continued to work throughout the summer off and on in spurts, but it's working again pretty good right now, is the little Kitech swim baits with the owner flashy swimmer hook on it. That's working really well. And let's see, that's 3, so 4. Of course, a frog. I'm always keeping a frog handy right now because it can get a big bite around all this vegetation that we're fishing at any time. Just when I notice fish blowing up on the edges of grass lines or anything like that, I'll pick that frog up and make some casts with it. Cloudy conditions, early in the morning, low light conditions, I'll make some casts with that frog. And it's still catching a fish here or there. The bite on that is nowhere near what it was. But I would anticipate that getting a lot better here very soon as we get into fall. That fall frog bite can be awesome. So, and then the 5th bait, one that's just, we're right on the edge of it. I mentioned it in last night's video, is the jerk bait. So just a shallow water jerk bait over the top of this grass. It's caught a couple fish for us the last few days. It's just starting. That bite is just starting. But I like being on the edge of stuff that fish are coming to. And that old shallow grass jerkbait bite is something they should be coming to as we get further into fall. Jerkbait's a standard every fall for a lot of people. It's a good bait. So there you go. This may be the quickest live stream ever because I still see no comments. Oh, here we go. We got comments. I just didn't turn them on. That's my fault. Beautiful. Here y'all are. I don't know why it didn't. Normally it shows me a count of how many people were watching. It didn't tonight. He canceled his kids' t-ball practice just to catch this live feed. My man, Ryan Johnson, I love you, buddy. Whoops. Yep. Somebody's, Mr. Dave's asking about Ray Hubbard. Hey, I'm going to get out to Ray Hubbard. It may take me a while. I'm going to try and find somebody that I know, or somebody that knows somebody that I know, to help me out on navigation on that lake, because the best fishing on that lake's up on the north end, and I don't know how to navigate up there because I'm not familiar with it. But that's something that I'm definitely going to get for you. We are going to go to Hubbard. It may take me a little while to get out there, but we're going to Hubbard. That is great. Canceling t-ball practice to catch my live stream. That's what I'm talking about right there. That's some good stuff. What temp do fish start moving shallow? Does that change throughout the day? Boy, in the fall it changes all the time. You know, when you start breaking that 80-degree mark, that lower half of the 80s, when you start getting around those upper 70s, I think that's when the mass migration starts, when you get in the 70s, the upper 70s, 78, 79 degrees. When you start seeing some of that, that's when the big migrations start, and that's where we've been. But what will happen is you'll get to that mark, and then like this week, it's going to heat back up, and that water is going to go back up temperature-wise, and those fish that started their migration will pull back out. And then they'll pull back in when it cools off, and then it heats up again, they'll pull back out. I call it the old two-step they do. They just in and out, in and out. So you just got to kind of play it by ear. It's day to day in the fall. They move around a lot, and so you have to really be paying attention to move around a lot as well. My opinion of V&M jigs. I've never fished a V&M jig. Jason Kahn fished a V&M jig, and he caught fish, so I guess it works. But I've never thrown a V&M jig, so I really don't have an opinion on it one way or the other. I'm sure it's a good product. I have no idea. Chatterbait rod. 7-foot heavy, 7.2 medium heavy. Seems like I've heard you mention both. Yeah, I have mentioned both. The 7-foot heavy is the best chatterbait rod. It really is. It accomplishes everything I want to do with the chatterbait. The 7-foot heavy is my favorite chatterbait rod. I'll even go to the 7.3, 7.4 heavies. I like that heavy backbone. I just want whatever heavy rod I have, I want it to have a little bit of tip on a chatterbait. And a 7-foot heavy is usually a small enough rod that it's just about right. There are times when I'm throwing it around sparser grass, though, when I'm throwing it on the fluorocarbon type lines, that I do throw it on a 7.2 medium heavy. But anytime I'm fishing around grass, which is the majority of the time I'm fishing chatterbait, how shallow will you be throwing? Okay, so he's asking, when I'm throwing a jerkbait, what depth am I sitting in, and what depth am I throwing the bait in? Right now, what's going on, the depth that my boat's sitting in can vary, because it depends on the wind direction, depends on a lot. But what I'm doing is these secondary points that I've been talking about, where they create these high spots, these funneling points that condense the bait, that's where we're throwing them. The jerkbait, I'm only throwing it, it's only going down 2 to 3 foot. I'm throwing that jerkbait in anywhere from 3 foot of water to 6, 8 foot of water over the grass, is where I'm throwing the jerkbait. But sometimes my boat may be sitting as deep as 15 foot if it has a steep enough drop off. But if the wind direction dictates that I sit on top of the end of a long tapering point, I may only be sitting in 5, 6, 7 foot of water. So it really varies right now. It depends on how I'm having to set up to the structure because of the wind direction and the steepness of the structure itself. So hope that helps. I know it's pretty vague, but talk about fall pattern. We are still in the mid-90s to 100 degrees here in Arizona. Does the fall pattern still apply, or do we have to wait till November? Well, if your water temp is in the mid-90s to 100 degrees, then you're in full summer pattern. I don't know it would be more helpful to know what your water temp is, because sometimes you can have some cold rain or just a cold front for a day or two that can affect your water temp, and it may feel like 95 degrees. Like, it's going to be 95 degrees here tomorrow too, but our water temp yesterday was 80 degrees, so we're starting the fall patterns. But I would say that if your water temp is like 90 degrees, upper 80s or higher, no, you're still in your summer patterns, brother. Those fish are going to wait on that water temp to trigger those fall migration patterns. The one thing that even if it stays hot really, really long, though, at some point as the days get shorter, those fish will start their fall migration whether the water temp dictates or not, because they know by the length of day what time of year it is. Does J Crawl call you B-Law? Oh, Justin Crawford. I call him J Crawl all the time. He does not call me B-Law, but there are a lot of people, a lot of my friends do call me B-Law. You guys feel free to call me B-Law. I've been called it a lot for most of my life. My buddy Zach Watts, that's on here all the time, calls me B-Law religiously. I never thought about it like that, but that's a pretty good pairing, a pretty good name pairing. J Crawl and B-Law coming to you live from East Texas, catching bass and kicking grass? Yeah. Catching bass and ripping grass, baby. Let's see. Wacky rig working at fast? No. Painfully slow on the Wacky rig right now. Have I recently fished Ray Roberts? I have never fished Ray Roberts. So, there you go on that. I've heard about a shad run in fall. What is it? It's a shad migration. It's what I'm calling the migration. The shad move from the main lake up into creeks, and then as it gets colder in winter, they'll move back out to the main lake. It's just a migration is all it is. It's everything that we've been talking about the last 2 weeks on this channel, really. What rod for 5XD, 6XD, DD20? So deep crankbaits. We're talking about super deep, 17, 18 foot plus diving crankbaits. What rod? 711 medium heavy. Limit 5 series is the rod that I use for that. 711 medium heavy. Plenty of backbone to handle those big baits getting down there, but a good tip to keep you from ripping those treble hooks out. That's the one I like. The big thing is you got to have a reel that you can cast a long ways and has a large spool capacity for your big crankbaits. That's a must-have, because you want to get a lot of line out there so that bait gets down and stays in the strike zone longer. Alabama rig with 5 DT20 Rapala crankbaits is my go-to. That is a good go-to. Let me ask you this though. Have you like whittled down a broomstick? Is that what you throw that with? I'm not really sure. I mean, if you're throwing 5 DT20 crankbaits on a Bama rig, I would imagine you have to have a pretty heavy rod for that. Ryan Johnson. Ryan Johnson, you're definitely one of my favorites, man. You come up with some of the best comments of anybody on here. What's my favorite blade to fluorocarbon leader knot? On all my leaders, I use uni to uni. Uni to uni knot's a very simple knot to tie, very strong knot. I've never had it fail at the knot. I've broken leaders, but I've never had it fail at the knot where it pulled out. So uni to uni is what I use for every leader that I tie. What is my strategy for windblown banks and points? What key features do you look for? Are you looking for those stop signs in compressed areas? Absolutely. When I'm fishing those windblown areas, that is the best time to look, where it condenses that bait from top to bottom. Wherever you have those shelves, that's what they're going to use to feed. They're going to push that bait up onto that shelf. And when they push it up there, and when it naturally gets up there from its migration, and when you collide with bait being condensed, bass being with them, and you being there when that's happening, that's when we hit these fall home runs where it's 1 fish, 2 fish, 3 fish in a row, bang, bang, bang. Like, that's when you hit that big school home run of the fall that we're all looking for this time of year. Water temp is 86 to 88 in Arizona. So I would say, yeah, you're at the tail end of the summer patterns, but you're definitely still, I would say, probably in summer patterns with 88 degree water. I would look for that water to get in the lower end of the 80s before they really start migrating and moving like they are here in Texas. I fish a man-made lake that is 10 foot everywhere except by the banks. Only structure are boat docks and riprap, but having a hard time finding and getting on fish steady. So kind of got a bowl situation with some docks and some riprap. I would say if it's void of cover, with the exception of the riprap and the docks, and you're having a hard time getting bit, my suggestion to you, well, one of two things. I mean, you could just be in a hard time of year because the fish are moving around because of the time of year it is, the transition, and that becomes difficult because when those fish migrate and they don't have a lot of structure or cover to relate to, then they just kind of suspend and migrate, and it's really hard to stay with them. It becomes very difficult to catch them consistently at all because they're just moving around randomly. But my suggestion would be the best thing you can do is to get around the existing cover that is there, the docks and the riprap, and fish very, very methodical and slow with finesse presentations, light shaky heads, wacky worms, drop shots, just the really finesse stuff, fish super slow. That is where I would go in that situation to the best of what I'm understanding you're dealing with there. So I said shad are in the creeks here in Virginia. Water temps are 74. Water temps are 74 in Virginia, bro. That fall bite should be just getting almost to the peak. Like when it gets in the upper 60s, it's in the. You guys are like one more cool front away from it being the best that it's gonna get. Y'all should be hammering the fish if the water temps at 74 degrees in the fall patterns. That's. I can't tell you how excited I am for that to happen here, and it's close. How do you eliminate unproductive water before you fish a new body of water? Well, boy, that's a good idea for a video. That's a long topic. That's an open. It's a very good question, but there's a lot of factors in there. The first thing I'm gonna do is try to get a general history of the lake. I'm gonna try and understand what kind of lake is this. Is this a lake where people catch big fish? Is this a big numbers lake? Is this a tough lake to fish? For bass. That's the first thing I want to understand is just the general history of the lake, how good of a lake or bad of a lake it is. The second thing that I need to know, first and foremost, is what is the main forage base? What do those fish eat? So I'm going to look up here in Texas. I'm going to go to the Texas Parks and Wildlife site, and they have a page for every lake, and it kind of gives you, a breakdown of what species exist in the lake and what the population of them is per acre and all that. So I'm going to go to Texas Parks and Wildlife, try to figure out and give my best guess at what the forage base will be. And then I'm going to, also on that same site, you can look up, it'll tell you about vegetation. And then if I know anybody from that area, I'm going to call them, I'm going to try and find out, I'm going to get on Google Earth, look at old pictures, and look for vegetation. Because vegetation, as you guys all know that fish all the time, vegetation is a game changer with bass. It can make a lake fish completely differently if it has grass or if it doesn't. So I want to answer 3 questions. What kind of fishing lake is it? Is it good, bad, or indifferent? What kind of bait are they eating? Does it have grass? With those 3 clues, that's going to start me off where I need to go. And then from there, it's a whole nother ball game. Seasonal patterns, offshore structure, look at Google Earth, try to get an elevation map. But that's the first 3 questions that I want to answer when I'm going to a new body of water. What are my top 2 or 3 Smash Tech swim baits? My favorite Smash Tech swim bait is going to be the convict, 100%, no doubt. The convict, the weedless convict is my favorite. It suits the areas I like to fish the best with the big fish potential. I love the Smash Tech convict. Second swim bait, my second favorite swim bait from Smash Tech. Probably that new gizzard. That new gizzard shad, we caught a lot of fish on earlier in the summer. It is a really, really, really good bait. I've caught a lot of fish on that new gizzard shad swim bait. And then third, man, he's got a lot of them. It's hard to, he's got a lot of swim baits, so it's kind of hard to break down. But third might be that limited run deal that he brought out that day he was with me on camera on Monticello, and he just waxed my tail with that little hollow belly swim bait that he did a limited run that I'm sure a lot of you guys bought because they sold out of them like overnight after we aired the video. But yeah, that's probably that hollow belly swim bait, the little top secret Heath Taylor's personal little toy. Probably my third favorite. But yeah, the convict and that little gizzard shad are 1 and 2 for me just because I've caught the most fish on them. Mention a crawfish pattern bite that will happen. Can you talk a little more on that? And when should we look for it to begin? When the water gets into the upper 60s. So we're a little bit of ways away from that. That's going to be more towards the end of October, beginning of November, when we start getting on that crawl pattern. There's a crawfish jig bite, and then that's the time of year that we also turn to the crawfish patterns, or I turn to the crawfish patterns on my lipless baits and my square bills and all different style crankbaits. I'll start throwing more crawfish patterns when that water breaks that 70-degree mark, gets in that upper 70s. So yeah, it's that's the crawfish pattern. Somebody says that the Smash Smash Tech Gizzard Chads are on fire. They are, man. That bait is primo. It's awesome. Awesome little bait. Heath Taylor's very, very constantly coming up with new stuff, man. He's an impressive guy. So. Alright, man. I really appreciate you guys watching tonight. Get it up close on me there. Let's get some more questions. If you guys got any more questions, please send them my way. We're about to close this deal out if y'all don't. So if you got some more questions, let me know as soon as possible. When I come across grass beds this time of year, do you run baits above it, along the edges, or throw jigs and worms in it? This time of year, for me on Fork, with the fish being early migrating like they are, first thing I'm going to do is throw moving baits like the 1/4 ounce trap or the swim bait, something along those lines over the top. Maybe a spinner bait. You know, we're going to start throwing that here pretty soon too. But I'm going to throw it over the top, and that's going to allow me to cover the entire grass flat from, you know, shallow to deep edge, outside edge, inside edge, all through the middle. It's going to allow me to cover that entire grass flat in a hurry and really decipher where the fish are positioned once I run across them. So that's why I'm going to use those moving baits first, and then once I found them, I'm going to slow down and really try to focus on the areas where I think they are, because when you find one this time of year, you often find a lot more than one. So once I get bit, I'm going to stop and slow down and try to catch as many as I can in that area. Very rare that you find a single fish right now. J Laugh says, I know you don't throw the drop shot a lot, but what is my go-to bait for it? The Lake Fork Trophy Lures needle worm. It's a 9-inch worm. I know that's huge for a drop shot, but I'm telling you, I've caught little bitty fish. I've caught really big fish. The action on that needle worm on a drop shot setup is phenomenal. It's become almost the only thing I'll throw on a drop shot is the needle worm. For our reservoir lakes that don't have creeks feeding the lake, what do we look for? Coves. If you have lakes that don't have any creek arms for them to migrate, I would just say that they're going to get up higher in the water column. They're going to push up closer to the bank, and they're still going to move around and look for stop signs and feeding plateaus in places to condense that bait. So I would say that you still are going to go shallow, but if you don't have creeks, it becomes more of a, that just means you got to hunt more. You got to really move around and hunt them down, because like I've said a million times, hey, when they move, you move. That's how it works in the fall, and you just got to move until you see the stop signs. When you find these wads of bait fish that exist in the fall, it becomes very obvious very fast. You'll see the bait on the surface. You'll hear them clicking and popping, snapping and doing what they do. A lot of times you'll see bass chasing them on the surface. When you see those kinds of things, guys, stop. Because once you find them, like I said, you can catch a bunch in a hurry. Favorite Carolina rig bait? Man, might be maybe the ring fry. Probably baby brush hog. Baby brush hog's probably my favorite Carolina rig bait, but the Lake Fork Tackle ring fry is really close behind it. I also like the hyper stick on a Carolina rig. That's about the extent of what I throw on a Carolina rig. Those three things. Am I open next Friday? I am not. Well, it depends on which Friday you're talking about. The 22nd, which is this coming up Friday, a week from tomorrow, is booked. It's booked. Hey, Get a Witness Fishing. My number is 903-519-1542. Text me, and I will give you, text me what you're looking for, and I will give you any open dates that I may have that we can work with. But I know Friday, September 22nd, I am booked. Do I like drop shots? Nope, I sure don't. You know, I like them when they're catching fish, but if I had my ruthers, I would not be throwing a drop shot. What is my favorite way to fish? That's a tough question. Whatever gets the next bite is my favorite way to fish. Let's see. We've got frogs. I'll give you a few. So frogs, jigs, big swim baits, like glide baits. Like that's probably my top three. A frog, flipping a jig in the wintertime, and big swim baits. That's my, I guess it's seasonal. Time out, X out. Let me start over. I like a frog in the summer. We're going to do this by season. Okay? I like a frog in the summer. I like a jig in the winter for flipping creek channels. I like big swim baits in the fall the best, and I like sight fishing in the spring. How about that? Does that work for my favorite? I got one for each season. I hope that's fair enough. Does wearing a Mexican wrestling mask help or hinder your chances? I mean, it would probably help me because I wouldn't be near as ugly if I did that, so I probably should wear one. I apologize for making y'all look at all this all the time. But I don't know what you're trying to get at there, but I think that would be a pretty good idea for a show for me to put on a Mexican wrestling mask. Somebody says, what happened to the Aggies last week? Well, I was fishing, so I don't know, and I really don't want to talk about it. That's all I got to say about that. Somebody says, thanks, Billy, for taking your time to answer all the questions. Hey, man, you're welcome. I appreciate you guys watching. I appreciate y'all sharing the video with your buddies, you know, trying to help me grow the channel. That's what it's all about. Apparel has been ordered. It's on the way. We will have that as soon as possible for you. Maybe, I would say a month is our longest time we have left on that. Month at the most before that's actually able to be ordered by you. I'm really excited about these shirts. They look really good. Somebody says, thanks for sharing all the knowledge. Hey, man, no problem. That is what I'm here for. I appreciate you guys watching. I appreciate you guys following. I appreciate the struggle of the weekend bass head. I get it, man. I was you for a lot of years. All I want to do is figure out how to catch. And if I can help any of y'all catch more fish, hey, that's what it's all about to me. It's not about dollar bills, and it's not about, you know, anything really. It's not about me being, you know, considered a great knowledgeable fisherman or nothing like that. It's just honest, open information, trying to help you guys catch as many fish as possible. I'm very humble. I understand where I am. The group that I exist in on Lake Fork is phenomenal. The town on the lake, those fish, the reason Lake Fork is so hard to catch fish in is not just the pressure, it's the quality of the pressure. I mean, the number of guys that fish on that lake that are just some of the best fishermen in the world, quite honestly, is phenomenal, and I'm very honored and humbled to be a part of that group. And I'm glad that I can help you guys out. I hope it works. I love seeing pictures of you guys fish, getting text messages or any type of message, you know, DMs on Insta, message on Facebook, whatever you want to do. But I love it when you guys contact me and let me know about a new PB or a big fish you caught. It's awesome, awesome, awesome. That's why I do it, and can't say thank you enough. Somebody says they're new to bass fishing, fishing from shore, from ponds and reservoirs. What lures do you recommend? I'm in from Indiana, and the weather is starting to cool down. As the weather cools down and you're stuck on the bank, when you're stuck on the bank, guys, it forces you to slow down. A 5-inch stick bait like the Smash Tech Smash Stick is probably hands down the best bait when you're fishing from a bank. Number one, you can throw it weightless, you can throw a Texas rig, you can throw it on drop shot, you can throw it on shaky head. You can do so much with it and present it in so many different ways that it becomes very versatile, yet is one of the most finesse, slow-moving, multiple bite getters. I mean, you might get more bites on that than anything. So a 5-inch stick baiting going really slow, because you have to when you're on the bank anyway. So let's go ahead and throw a bait that's suited for that. That would be hard to beat that suggestion right there, in my opinion. Bank fishing's a little tough. It's its own deal. I'm not that familiar with it. I haven't done that much. I've been fortunate to always kind of have found a way to get off the bank for most of my life. So sorry that I don't have a better answer for you, but that would be where I would start myself. I have to come to Virginia and fish. Hey, one of these days, man, as the channel grows and we get a little bit more time on our hands to do some things like that, I'd be more than happy to come to Virginia and fish. Somebody says they love the live videos. I love you guys' comments. Appreciate it. Picked up some of the weedless convicts. What rod and line do I use when throwing them? So on the weedless convict, you can throw it on like a middle 7-foot ring, like a 7.4, 7.6 heavy. You could, like for me, I could throw it on the 7.4 heavy with some big line. You know, if you're gonna go fluoro mono, you want to go at least 20 pound. I used to throw it on 20 pound mono all the time. I've really gotten, the more grass we've gotten in the lake, I've gone to throwing it on 50 pound braid mostly. And I actually do throw it on a 7-11 extra heavy. But that's because I'm throwing it in so much heavy cover, and the fish that eat that thing are so big that when I set the hook, I want to have complete control to get that fish up and out of that cover into the boat. So I'm throwing it on a 7-11 extra heavy Limit 5 series, 50 pound braid, and a 6:3 to 1 gear ratio so that I can move that swim bait as fast or slow as I want to. That middle gear ratio lets me vary the most. So that's how I do that. Alright guys, I think that is going to do it. I don't know how long we've been going, but I know my wife is probably right over there waiting on me. Hey, we got another video coming from her. Hey, let me know what you guys thought about seeing her on video and hearing her story. She is an amazing inspiration. I don't want to talk too much about it because I might tear up right here on camera. But that woman is incredible. Thank God every day for her. And we will have another video of her coming up. So comment below, let me know what you thought of the first video with her if you want to see more, because she's incredible and I want to know what you guys think about it. So, hey, thanks for watching. Anybody that's fishing the Big Bass Splash, best of luck to you. Please let us know how you did when it's done. And, man, just keep fishing, keep after them. If I can help in any way, let me know. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all under Your Lake Fork Guide. We appreciate you guys watching as always, and we'll see you next time right here on Your Lake Fork Guide.